Welcome to the Planning Board meeting of July 17th. This meeting is a hybrid meeting and can be accessed through Zoom. People can also basically, because there are some, when there's a public hearing, also address the board via Zoom. We have a full board tonight. No alternates yet, but we're hoping to get them. And I want to go straight into the approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read them?
Yes.
Okay. Any changes, corrections?
No.
I found them fine.
I would move to accept the minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, minutes are approved. On our agenda tonight, the first application that's forward is 773 Kings Highway, number 240303. This is an initial review, has been continued, so the applicant can add additional materials. And if you'd like to come up, and it would be very helpful to the board if you can explain the changes that were made and the new plans that were submitted.
Isn't this a public hearing?
No, this is not a public hearing. Public hearing will come after this application is found to be complete.
Oh, okay. My name's Christy Kenny. I'm from KW Architects. Do you want me to put?
Yeah.
Yes, we don't have an easel here right now.
Yeah, sorry. I thought there was an easel here. If not, don't worry about it. I am here representing the Jones family. We are proposing to move 575 feet garage, which is currently in, it's in all of the zoning, the shoreline zoning. Thank you. That's fine. I'll change this. Grab this too. I'll stay here. I'm not winning. The garage is currently in the setback from the marsh. There is also, it's in the flood zone, the erosion hazard area. It is in the DEP back dune. As most of you know, when we explained last time, the garage is currently inundated with water whenever there's a storm event. It is a condition that came about from when Kings Highway was built up a couple feet higher so that the entire garage actually gets surrounded by water in a storm event. You're asking particularly what has changed.
Right.
The lot coverage that we had on the paperwork was done because we didn't have a full survey at the last meeting. The survey I was using was what was approved in 2018. I since then have obtained a full survey of the property, which is this sheet.
Okay.
The corner, you'll see the lot coverage calculations. And as I explained in this cover letter, which you all have gotten in the mail, when we got the full survey, our lot coverage of what was built was raised above what was approved in 2018. So with this approval, we are going to go back to the lot coverage of what was approved in 2018. And as you can see through the calculations, the majority of the lot coverage that was over and above what was approved is pavement for the driveway that was built larger than what was approved. So we are going to revert back to what should have been built, which is equal to the 2018 lot coverage. Other than that, nothing has changed. The building is the same. It's 579 square feet now. We are proposing 575 square feet. The garage is currently 2'9" from the property line. We are proposing the new garage will be 3 feet from the property line. Other than that, we are not making changes to the project.
Mike?
Yeah, I had some, just trying to get some of the numbers to match up, if you could help me.
Sure.
On the application, on the page description of new structure, it says the existing garage is 579.
Yes.
Down below, under percent, it says existing 572. And the A0 block in the upper left-hand corner has 574 for existing. So I've got kind of the as-built numbers different than the number that seems to be used. And the same with the exterior footprint. Down below is 579, not 574.
The best I can do to explain that is that in 2018, the surveyor's existing footprint was 579 for the garage. And as of July, the same surveyor's existing footprint, I believe they have listed as 572.
Okay, I've got 574 on the drawing, and that's, it's not huge numbers difference, but it's just not consistent through. So from your A0 to your application, I've got 3 different numbers. I got 572, 579, and 574.
I can't
what-
give you the difference
Okay.
why it was in 2018.
We just need to get, if it's existing to 574, then you gotta just update your application that it's consistent with your drawings. Because right now it's not.
In 2018, it was 579. In 2008, it was 574. And we have slightly changed the size of the garage to actually fit a car, because the car, right now, it's more square, and I think it's 20 feet deep, and I can't fit a car in there, so we've changed the size, so we're at 575.
Okay.
I'm a little bit.
The proposed number I'm good with, okay?
Yep.
But you say up here under describe new structure, additions and existing structure. Existing is 579. That was what was proposed. The existing as it's built is 574, not 579. So that just number needs to be changed. And then under existing, under your percentage, a lot occupied by building, it says 572. Existing, no, existing is
I see what- yeah.
574. And then same down below, under exterior footprint, it's 579, existing, and needs to be 574. And then when you do that, your numbers change for your totals and your percents.
Okay.
And it just needs to be updated and made consistent. I understand there's 3
Yeah.
sets of dimensions.
Right. And I can tell you, it's the same garage. It was not rebuilt in 2018.
Yeah,
It was the original garage from the house.
yeah. And
So it's a bit of a question about where the
we-
measurements may have been
We've
taken.
entered the space-time continuum and the garage changed, right? But
Universe is
currently,
expanding.
Could be
yeah.
someone took the dimensions from the outside of the shingles, someone took them
yeah,
from the
whatever it is,
foundation.
it just needs
Yeah.
to be, if we're saying existing is 574, then that's gotta be existing.
Okay.
So update the application to
I
match
will.
whatever the existing measurements.
And do we all agree you want me to use 574?
If
Just
that's what, if that's what it is.
That's what it measures.
If that's what you measured and what it is, then that's the number.
That is.
I'm assuming, unless somebody else on the board's got a different opinion.
Yeah, I'm
No, I
I'm
think the board,
copying
the
what was
board
on
doesn't have a strong opinion here, other
Just
than
consistent.
existing should mean be determined by you, and it should be written the same way in all 3 places.
okay.
And then,
At the end of this process, we have to write a findings of fact.
I
And if
get
the facts
it.
are that it has 2 different dimensions, it's not gonna work for us.
yeah, and then you just gotta update your totals and your percentages when you change the number,
Okay.
because it'll affect those also.
Okay. I'm gonna have the surveyor update his stuff, because that way there won't be inconsistent.
And will we come back to the original allowed amount of impervious?
Yes, because we are not going to build anything more than what was approved in 2018. The issue I have is the 2018 drawings show 579, which I can't change. They're not my legal documents. So I got to go back to the surveyor and just have him, well, to her now, Lower Village, and have them choose the square footage that they measured and get it all. I see what you're saying, the consistency.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the square footage of impermeable will adjust, and we'll just have to
Yes.
see where that, if it's larger or smaller, it's by 0.1%, so I'm not sure that that's terribly significant.
In the end, it's not going to be we're going to match 2018. Whatever the surveyor, whether he decides to use 574 or 579, will match what he has.
Okay,
It's a matter of paving,
yeah.
the square footage of the paving.
For clarification purposes, do right-of-ways normally count towards the lot coverage requirements for impervious surface?
That I don't know.
It's on the lot. Is
It should
is
be.
it impervious or not?
Well, it's a gravel road is the way I took it.
Has it been paved?
The reason I ask is I look in your lot coverage definition, and I notice it says the percentage of a lot covered by structures. And then within the shoreland zone, lot coverage shall include driveways, parking lots, and other non-vegetative surfaces. And I don't know if a right-of-way is, I don't think that's a non-vegetative surface. So I don't know if this right-of-way number needs to be updated to reflect the amount of impervious surface as lot coverage, because it looks like she's taking the total of the perimeter of the right-of-way, not the
should-
actual impervious surface.
I would say it still should count. I mean,
Well, can I totally pave the right-of-way is legally? If I have a right-of-way, can the other person put?
They could.
if
It's
they-
not currently.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
Yeah, and that,
mentioning.
yeah,
So
I can tell you that around 2013 or 14, the DEP declared that all driveways were impervious, regardless of whether they're paved or not paved.
and I understand this is stone, I believe.
Yeah, partially.
it is a non-vegetative surface,
And we're not changing that. We're going to go back to what was,
and you're in the shoreland zone.
yep,
So it's being counted as part of the impervious.
yep.
Yep.
Seems okay.
Yep.
That was all I had.
That was enough.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, I've done my quota, I'm done for that.
All right,
anyone else on the board?
No.
Have any questions?
no
Ed?
questions. No.
I don't. I think you've answered most of the questions that we had asked.
Okay.
Do you want a motion?
Yeah, let's,
I would move that this is a complete application.
with the conditions that a new calculation is sent to the office.
Right, that figure be made consistent.
Right,
Right.
okay. I'll second that. Vote? Ed?
All those in favor, yes?
In favor?
I complete,
Complete, yeah. Are you guys gonna vote?
Yes, we voted yes.
okay.
We're just,
All right.
no one here.
The application then is complete. And the next time, when's our next one? Is it 3 weeks from now?
First Wednesday in August.
First Wednesday in August.
Okay.
There'll be a public hearing.
Okay. Do you want me to mail you the revised things or just send them to Galen?
Just Galen.
Do you want paper copies?
No, I think you could just send them in and we'll put them up on SharePoint. That would
Okay.
be
Are you
enough
The
for
case
us.
manager?
Making sure.
Yeah.
Who's the case manager?
I have no idea.
Who is the case manager? Who is the case manager?
That's the next question.
Okay,
And since you said that,
yeah.
Tom started this application, but he never added a case manager to it. So,
I will take on that,
okay.
and
all
then
right
I will
then.
just get
Thank you.
from Galen the updates when they come in.
Okay.
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Assumed you were doing it, because you had such good questions.
Yeah, that's the 7th of August.
Just checking that.
Okay. That brings us to our next application, 240501, the Lily Pond subdivision and Wiles District subdivision. Michael Catamount, and this is a continued public hearing. And since the last time we met, we've had the town attorney give us some opinions. And we've also had an update from Acorn Engineering. I don't know if you want to address those.
Well, I'll keep it pretty short. We're in receipt of the latest, the email from the town's attorney to Galen this morning, as I'm sure you folks are as well. And we, I think it's safe to say we cannot meet that minimum net residential area per lot. At this point, we have no further evidence to submit or provide, and we ask that the board take a vote on the application tonight.
Okay, there are several issues on the board. It's not just the open space requirement in the net residential lot, but also the fact that you've got a 250-foot setback from a pond.
Yeah, again, we're not going to submit any additional information. We just ask that the board vote and make
Okay.
findings.
Well, in that case, I'm going to open the public hearing if anybody wanted to make further comments. Is there anybody out there who would like to make a comment? Not that I see. No? Okay. Yes?
Hi there. I don't know if this is important or not. My wife submitted some information to the board yesterday. I don't know if you folks have received it. She wrote a letter to the board.
I don't.
Okay. Well, I'll just read it. She's out of town, so she asked if I would come and read her letter. Basically what it says is, at your suggestion at the last hearing, I located and spoke with several wetland scientists in the area and had a consultation with Kevin Ryan. Kevin is Director and Ecological Services Lead at FB Environmental in Portland and holds a PhD in wildlife ecology. He was very gracious to speak with me on short notice and to review the wetland delineation and my videos of the area. He confirmed in the attached letter, which I can read to you as well, that the calls on my video, March 24, are indeed wood frogs. In a phone call several months ago with Emily Robinson, IFW research biologist, I learned that vernal pools are often located in and around the edges of this type of pond and forested wetland area. The applicant has measured the open pond and aquatic vegetated area at around 14,000 square feet. Acorn estimates the entire wetland area at 36,000 square feet. This leaves somewhere in the neighborhood of 22,000 square feet for potential vernal pools and other types of wetland. We know that wood frogs breed in this area and also know that wood frogs breed most exclusively in vernal pools. The applicant had the opportunity, access to both lots, and should have studied these areas this past spring. Residents have given accounts over the past 8 months as to the amount of aquatic life that exists there. These areas surrounding the pond would need to be studied in the springtime to determine their significance and if they fall under the guidelines of the Natural Resource Protection Act. Wood frog breeding calls are heard early spring throughout the entire area. The attached site map and aerial photographs of lots 9:10:22A and 9:10:23 specify two areas in the videos taken March 31st, 2024, and they are up on the screen right now. If you look at the plan there, you'll notice that Wiles District Road would be on the upper section of that map. And going south, you'll see that the X on the left would be where the video was taken at the back of our property line, and the area in red circle was where the frogs were heard. The other X in the right-hand side, on the upper right, is where the video was taken, which basically shows, and that was actually the loudest area. And you all have those videos, I assume. And that's where the most of the activity was, the wood frog activity. They were all over the pond, but those are two places that we thought would be the most important. Okay, so it shows the area where the road and open space and recreation area is proposed, and it shows the south end of the wetland. As you can see, there exist potential vernal pools in very close proximity to the road and to the three house lots. These need further study to prevent any negative impact this project would have on this large habitat, including the impact of chemicals, pesticides, and fertilizers. Respectfully, Catherine Gay. And if you'd like, I can read the letter from the environmentalist.
That's up to you.
It's up to you. Do you folks want to hear it? It's basically, he basically says that the choruses heard in the early spring videos are indeed wood frogs. The evening videos recorded on June 13th feature gray tree frogs. So he basically is saying that those early videos, apparently there was some question from the board last week as how to tell one frog from another. So anyway.
Can I just ask a question? Of
course.
Are you making the point that if wood frogs are heard, there must be vernal pools? Is that-
According to IFNW and some other studies, they breed most exclusively in vernal pools. If that's your question.
Okay.
It's
Didn't
a
appreciate
formality.
that.
Bill, could you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill Gay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
If there's no one else that wants to speak,
But one more thing. That letter I didn't see that letter, just for your information. I don't know where it was sent, but it didn't come to the board.
it may have just come in.
The letter is in the SharePoint drive.
It is.
Did you get note of that?
No, I did not.
I think we get notice when things are posted on the SharePoint drive.
We have had some, we're experiencing some growing pains in
okay.
terms of notification, but
Thank you. I
I
just
tried to
didn't
send
wanna
out
lose it.
emails to the
If
board.
I may
when we
approach, I
got
can give you
new
guys
things.
copies.
No,
Anybody?
That wasn't my point. I can easily access it. I'm just,
Okay,
we got a lot of different wheels.
a lot of moving parts.
A lot
I
of moving
understand.
parts. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
of course.
And I didn't want to lose it. I didn't want to just say, oh, yeah, I must have not got that letter.
Okay,
No.
well, I'm glad I read it then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone online? Nobody online?
He said no.
Okay.
No.
Mark Paquette. A lot of the abutters sent videos and photographs, and I wondered if we could see those. They can be displayed at this point?
They are online, I believe. Yeah, they're available under the planning board
Can-
active applications.
Is it possible to show them on the screen,
Yep, if you can just let me know which videos you'd like to see, I can pull them up.
all of them,
All of them?
please?
All right, so I guess we'll just go down in descending order one at a time.
Six.
You make it big.
Yes.
Lower right. There you go.
And sound.
Just 1 second.
Uh-oh.
Explaining this for both.
Explaining it.
All right, did you bring your audio up one?
There we go.
There we go.
We're gonna get into it.
So this is about a fraction of the sounds in our backyard. It's a roar. Everybody.
You have to come up to the podium if you're going to say something.
And introduce yourself.
James Vasenko, this is actually taken from our deck, from our house. The video is of the various kinds of frogs. There's multiple kinds in there. We've never had it audio analyzed to find out what types of frogs are in there. But it's a roar. And it just corroborates the videos that he's describing. And yes, this is what we've heard in our backyard all the time. And our biggest concern is what happens to any kind of runoff and stuff like that. So much damage potentially be done. That is the biggest point of that particular. It's a 2-minute long video, and if you have a chance to hear it on your own computers, you'll be able
We
to
did,
see.
yeah. No,
We did.
I've done it.
Oh, everybody had a chance. That was actually my other question. Everybody's had a chance to hear
Yes,
them.
those
Thank you.
videos.
No, we've had the chance and taken the opportunity.
Yes.
Both of those things are true.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I'm still low. I just, not to be contentious, but I don't think there's been any, no one has challenged the fact that there is wildlife in this area, that there's frogs there. So,
But as far as this video is concerned, it just corroborates.
yeah, no, I
what's-
agree. Okay, then, yeah. It's not new, it's just in your face type of, yeah.
There is one more video coming up. If I can have a chance to comment, I just want to
Thank you.
get some clarification of some things that actually Nina mentioned in the last meeting.
Okay.
This one right here, in fact. So right now, it's pointing in the direction of the drainage hole that goes underneath the road at this time. One of the things I was hoping for clarification is the proposed drainage hole, is it going to be approximately in the same area? And at what depth is it compared to the one that exists right now? So this is showing flooding in the backyard during springtime. You know, we had 3 major storms that happened in January, and they flooded the entire backyard. And this is pretty much, you know, the levels from the pond is going into the backyard. It was really quite extraordinary. There is some residual snow, but there was actually, most of that snow was fairly recent fall towards the end there. And I'm just pointing out the amount of water that was in the backyard. As you go to the left here, you'll see that the entire backyard, the lawn is submerged right now by water. Thank you very much.
Okay.
May I address one thing?
Yes.
So just a moment ago, I believe Mr. Francis asked, he said that no one has doubted that there's wildlife. The point of the whole letter is the potential significant vernal pools that could surround that pond.
And that's why I asked for
Okay,
that
all
clarification
right.
earlier.
Yes.
Your premise is wood frogs, ergo
Vernal pools.
likelihood of vernal pools.
Correct.
That I got.
And likelihood of significant vernal pools.
Understood, yes.
Okay.
To the point.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Cynthia Paquette. I live at 42 Wiles District Road. And I'd like to revisit very briefly a question that I raised at the last meeting 2 weeks ago with regard to open land and recreational space. Would you please?
Would you like me to show the pictures or the videos?
No, just the site map
Right.
of the corner. What I'm going to show is the area that has been set aside as open space. And as you can see, is there a way to blow it up?
Yeah, it was
Most of-
working just a minute ago, so.
Okay. I don't know if it's clear, but the area set aside as open space represents 15% of the overall area of the development site as required by subdivision regulations. And the majority of the area appears to be wetland and partially the pond. In addition to which, as I understand it correctly, at least 1/3 of that open space needs to be dedicated to recreational space, either upland area or suitable for recreation. And I came across a letter dated May 10th, 2023 in the initial application addressed to Werner Gilliam, the Director of Planning and Development at the time, that states that the proposed project will feature 0.63 acres of open space containing the majority of the wetlands on site. And my question is, does this meet the intended purpose of that subdivision regulation? And I will read it. It is subdivision regulation 415-11-8B. And I will quote points 4 and 7. The subdivision shall reserve sufficient undeveloped land to provide for the recreational needs of the occupants. Point 7, the developer shall provide no less than 15% of the total area as open space. At least 1/3 of the total area of required open space will be upland areas or areas suitable for active or passive recreation. And my question to the board is, does this meet the subdivision regulation? I could not think of one form of recreation that could take place on a parcel of land that is mostly water. No playing of ball, no shuttlecocks flying, and it's directly contiguous to the access road. About 60% of the access road to the development is bordered by this open space. And imagine balls flying, hitting car hoods, windshields. It's right on the corner of Wiles District Road and the access road. So I just was not comfortable seeing
Well-
this as appropriate recreational area.
I understand what you're saying. I have a problem with it too, but recreation can include just walking
Or sitting, watching,
or frog hunting.
Well, frog hunting,
gigging.
I can see that.
So,
Understood.
but we understand what you're saying.
Thank you.
All
Yeah.
right, thanks.
I have a couple of points. One is that at the last meeting, the attorney for some of the abutters submitted a letter to the DEP asking for a review. To my knowledge, we have not heard a response. So I would request of the board that any approval of this application be held until that response. Second point that I'd like to make is, and I'm going back to Mr. Francis's Excel spreadsheet. I hate to revisit that again, but one point that the abutters requested at that time that the letters were submitted was for a study by Inland Fisheries and Wildlife concerning the area. And based on the wood frogs that have been heard and some of the concerns about vernal pools and so on, I guess I would like to see the board address that.
Well, to your first point, the board is not going to hold an application while you do an outside review with the state. The board has to go forward with their applications. This is outside the jurisdiction of the board, what you do there. We might have to come back and change something, but we basically do not hold applications in abeyance because of state actions unless there's an interlocutory appeal to a court over something that's happening within an application. And even then, we might not hold up an application to wait for a court to make a decision. Okay, there are two different jurisdictions there. Okay. To your second point, the board has considered all of the evidence that's been put before us. And that's not just from the applicant's wetland specialist, but also there have been 3 visits by DEP officials, including 2 separate DEP officials looking at this property, looking at the pond, looking at the drainage, comparing it to maps of the area. And while you might dispute their findings, the board has to take what evidence is put before them, basically.
With all due respect, Inland Fisheries and Wildlife sent a letter way back in November, I think, if I have that correct. But they're basing their information not on a site visit, not on what's going on in this particular parcel of land, but the general geographical area. And so what we would like to see, I think, is that this area in particular is studied, especially based on the evidence that we seem to have about wood frogs. And thereby the potential for vernal pools.
I understand that.
And I'm not disputing what the applicant's engineer found or what the DEP has found. But those visits by those 2 entities were at different points in time in the spring. And so they weren't witness to the wood frogs.
I think you'd find that IFW generally looks at geographic areas when they make a decision, when they make a determination of something. And again, we have no basis on the evidence that we have to ask them to come in and make another determination, a field determination, going right into the field. I don't know. I don't think we ever have.
No, so past practice of Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife is that they do take the data that is submitted from a qualified environmental scientist. In the case, it was Longview Partners, and they will verify that data to ensure that was it indeed a vernal pool of significant habitat or was it not.
Right.
And so they received that data. They are acknowledging they received that data. So that's the past practice for the department.
Yeah.
But they didn't study that area.
They do
In person, they did not.
They don't usually come out in person and study that area. They take the data
I guess we'd like to request that they do.
and we don't usually do
But
that.
you wouldn't do that through us, Mark.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's all,
Okay.
you know.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, if I may. So since the beginning, the pond has been the 800-pound gorilla in the room, as everybody knows. According to, or from the very beginning, Longview Partners disregarded the pond as irrelevant in this whole study. It's never been studied. The only time that they went onto the property, in fact, I think he said at one point that he didn't have access to that land. The reality of it is, he has had access to the land. Potentially could have been studied, but it's sort of like whistling past the graveyard on this pond, hoping and wishing that it had no significance. It never was studied. The only time they ever ventured onto the pond was to measure the 14,000 square feet of vegetated area as well as open water. It has never been studied for vernal pools, ever, period.
Well, in fairness, it's clearly not a vernal pool. It doesn't go dry.
The pond doesn't, the outside areas do, which is the areas we're talking about. That 22,000 square feet of wooded wetland.
I know what you're saying, but we've also had 2 DEP people out there looking at that pond and the drainage from it, and they would have noticed if there were vernal pools.
And led by the hand,
No, they're
Please,
not
they-
led by the hand, believe me.
out in, was any of the neighborhood people invited to that meeting with the DEP?
That's not a public sort of site.
Understood,
walk.
understood. But I'm just saying, my point is that there's 22,000 square feet of uninvestigated area.
I'm sorry, I disagree with you. It has been investigated.
Has not. Show me where it has, and I apologize for,
I think we've heard,
the small vernal pool in the backside of the property was definitely investigated
understood.
by Longview Partners. This pond has been disregarded pretty much, except for opinions, this and that, but not a study.
So I'm going to come at this from another direction. And I recall that at the last meeting, this pond was directly discussed as being of a size that required a 250-foot setback for any dwelling. I'm not sure what being a vernal pool would do beyond that, but I'm not sure where you're going with this.
No, because this is an open meeting.
Yeah.
And a public hearing, just to be on the record with this
Okay.
information.
All right,
Okay?
fair enough.
Okay,
Fair-
respectfully admit.
Fair enough. It's just we went back and forth 3 or 4 times, and I thought I
Okay,
might have been missing something.
and I apologize, but I wasn't here. I'm basically here as a
I know what
representative
you're
for-
trying to say, but when Jim Logan goes out to a property for a client, he's not looking to not find things for a client or find things for a client.
Fair enough.
I've seen him, I've been with him walking my properties and tried to tell him that something wasn't a wetland, and he said, yes, it is, and you can't build there. Basically, he goes out and he looks over the whole property. And
Understood.
even though he found one possible significant vernal pool, that doesn't mean he hasn't looked around that pond. I'm sure that he has. Okay?
Okay, again, respectfully,
You wish
it was
that-
never studied.
You wish that the neighbors had gone with him, and it would have made you feel better. You're
No,
hearing
not
some-
necessarily, because we did do a walk around,
Yeah.
and the walk around that we did.
You're hearing
walked right
anecdotal
past.
evidence that members of the board have experienced directly with the integrity of Jim.
Fair enough.
We heard at the last meeting, I'm not sure
Not
whether
disputing
you-
that.
Well, but we're discussing it, really. We're saying.
Right.
I mean, there's one guy. How can we trust this, But we heard last week, I think it was you, Jeff, that reminded us that you've got a fellow whose living is made on his reputation and his bona fides. He's not, he doesn't jeopardize that.
And in deference to you, I've heard the same thing.
Okay, well,
So,
fair enough.
but it's a different point. But thank you very much for your time.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Anybody else? Anybody out in Zoom land? Okay. Then I'm going to close the public hearing and let the members discuss this application among themselves. Ed, you have comments?
No new comments. I think there's 2 reasons why we can't approve this application. One is that the setback from the pond, and the other is the required net residential area isn't met by the individual lots. Now, there may be others, but those are the 2 that are stuck in my craw, and until, maybe there's room for 2 2 lots on that property, but I don't see how there's room for the 3, given our read of the ordinances.
Correct. I agree with you, and also in looking at the amount of open space that's required, given Amy's opinion, and also given the subdivision regulations of what constitutes open space and recreation area, I don't think you can meet the parameters of the open space. You need 20%, not 15%.
Can I comment on that? I think Amy challenged the board to go reconcile the difference between the 20% that's listed in the land use ordinance
Right.
for open space on a per lot basis, and what's listed in the subdivision regs as 15% required open space on a subdivision. I think they do have 15% of the subdivision set aside for open space. Whether you think a third of it is upland or you can play sports in it, that's a separate issue. But I think that the plan has the required 15% for the subdivision. And I think that the 3 lots each had 20% open space in those lots if you had a reasonable building envelope. So I wasn't persuaded that that was a fundamental problem, like I thought the first 2 items were.
Definitely the
Okay.
first 2 items, yes. Larry?
Well, I had the same thought. It seems to me that the 250-foot setback from the pond and the net residential area, those 2 issues mean we really should not approve the application as submitted.
George?
I agree.
I guess I have a different view that this seems to be, I know, a year into it, and suddenly we're putting different parameters against, and I don't feel very comfortable with that. That we've spent a year on to, we made a mistake a year ago by not catching this.
Yes, I agree with you.
Okay, so,
But
we've
that
got-
delay has not been entirely up to us.
It does, but we've been working this for a year, and today at 2:00, I get a note that says the rules have changed. And I don't think applying that change at the 12th hour is fair, because this is something that we missed. We had to get the attorney involved to take, and, maybe it's a point going forward, but not applicable to this project.
Let me respond to that. I don't think the rules changed.
Well, or our interpretation there.
My interpretation didn't change. I thought my interpretation was validated. I admit to not catching the 250-foot setback. I think over a month ago, I, for the first time, caught the net residential area problem.
Yeah, but we didn't, it wasn't brought forward into this forum until potentially last meeting. Right? Which was after it should have been something.
Two meetings ago, the net residential area was brought up.
Okay, then I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay.
But it just seems to me that it really came to the fore, wasn't clear, we had to get it clarified.
I don't think we have the ability to not enforce the ordinance, though.
We can waive, can't we?
No, we cannot.
No.
No,
Not performance specs.
no.
It's not in our purview.
Anything else?
No, it's just, I feel it's, what I said.
Yeah.
I agree with you. It's uncomfortable to come up with,
It's not-
and, looking at this in the final application, it should have been caught in the preliminary.
Agreed.
I
But
just
that
see
doesn't change it.
Yeah, I just see that as our error, not the developers.
Okay, but your delay also was due to the developer, because they had a preliminary plan approval, and they waited months before they came back with a final plan.
Yeah. But if this
Okay.
would have gone through months earlier, we may not have brought this up.
Oh,
Who
that's
knows?
a
You get into
possibility.
a whole game. But
Okay. Can I have a motion? Do you want me to make a motion?
Yes, please.
I move that the application not be approved because it doesn't meet the performance standards of the subdivision regulations
And the land use ordinance. And the
and the
land,
land use ordinance.
I'll second that, yeah.
Approve?
I agree.
I agree too.
Agree.
I agree.
I disagree.
Are you approving the application?
Huh?
No, he doesn't
No, I
have the
disagree.
opportunity.
Motion.
We're voting on the motion.
We're voting on the motion. I disagree with the motion for the reasons I stated.
Are you abstaining from a vote?
Can I say no? Is it abstain or yes, or can I say?
You can
I dis-
abstain.
I can say I disagree with the motion.
You can say you disagree with the motion, but I think you have to either approve or disapprove.
Well, then I disapprove of the motion,
Or you can abstain from voting.
right? But I can disapprove also, right?
Yes.
Then I disapprove.
Okay.
Yep, so it's 4-1.
Doesn't have to be unanimous.
Yeah, 4-1.
Okay. All right. Do I still need to write a findings of fact on this, I believe?
Yeah, you have to send a letter to them stipulating why it was denied.
Just a letter?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to work with you to go through the reasons.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes substantive review tonight of applications. And we need to take up old business at this point. If you want to leave at this point, you're welcome to go, the audience.
Cheers all.
We started a discussion of the planning board rules and procedures, the
Yes.
subdivision regs.
Yep.
Yep.
So you had the chapter 405, which was your planning board rules and regulations. As you heard from the town solicitor, it's in our best interest to try to rectify chapter 415 with land use provisions and try to clarify things. And, you know, things did get missed, I think, when the original chapter 415 was codified into the town code to make sure that those were mirroring each other. And so for moving forward, I think that's probably what we will be looking for under old business, is to address chapter 415. So if folks want to just take a look at that and we can start seeing where there's similarities or differences, that's our homework assignment, I think, to start that process. Staff will start be doing an internal review as well. And I think at our next meeting, if there's not too much on the agenda, we can discuss that. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Do you want to take up the rules and regulations tonight then, or do you want people to go forward and just look at chapter 415?
Yeah, has everyone had a chance to look at the rules section?
Not for a long time.
Okay.
Not recently, yeah.
No? Okay.
So
I would-
basically,
That's
take
up
a
to
look
you,
at
Nina.
415 and 405 and see if where alignment is needed. Is that the idea?
So we definitely need to take a look at 415.
Yeah.
405, that's been out there for a little bit. We just clarified some things on there, and I don't know if I can share my screen or not. Can you?
Not sure, they invited me as a journalist.
Get on a Zoom,
Yep.
and then we'll share that way.
Okay, so you in
Now
Zoom?
you can do it.
I am.
Okay. If you go under the share drive, it should be under the. It's draft revisions. So let's see. Again, these are things that either Cheryl Perlmutter found or staff has found as potential things that you can look at to change. This does not require a town vote because the rules can be amended by the planning board members. Certainly, if there's any other changes you all would like to make, I'd encourage you to let us know what your thoughts are. The first one is under 405-4 organization. You'll see the subsection 2. We had a question of when would this scenario apply? Is this needed? And this was to accept when another member is designated as the presiding member for eligible to vote. So that's just a question for the board, if you wanted to discuss that at all.
Nina, can you tell me what we're doing right now?
Okay, we're looking.
I've lost the bubble
Okay.
completely.
The subdivision regulations consist of our rules and regulations that govern how we look and how we, basically the timetable for applications
Chapter 405,
405 is our rules.
is our rules of
Yes.
the subdivision regulations.
this board's rules.
Yes.
Right.
415 are the actual
I
regulations.
understand that.
And those require
So
town.
I see 405 up on the board,
Right,
and Galen's talking to them.
yes.
Galen, are you proposing a change to the board's rules and regulations?
Yes, there are certain sections. Remember, I had that flow chart for you
Have you
that
looked at
explains the
these?
process.
Yes, and we can change these.
Yes, you can change them.
Oh, I know we can, but we should review the changes, the proposed changes first, right?
That's why you're given a copy of it.
Where,
For example, on this particular one.
where have I received a copy of this? I'm sorry,
This is-
that's what's confusing
This is
me.
on your planning board documents, and it's been uploaded since July 2nd.
And
That
there
they've
were
been-
hard copies.
That was the
given out
flow
at the-
chart, right?
Yeah, that was part of
Part
the
of
flow
it,
chart,
yeah.
and then there was the actual draft language that was on there as well.
It came with this. Maybe we should defer this until people have really.
I think that
chance
would
to
be good.
study it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now we know, take a look, a hard look at 405, right? Is that the idea?
Right, right.
So it's 405 and compared to the flow chart.
No, 405, just look at it in terms of the rules and regulations. Like, one of the things we did was the start time was indicated
Yeah.
as,
Okay.
at 7 o'clock, and we took that out to leave it flexible,
Yeah.
Yep.
things like that.
And the one that Galen was just showing was, in the past, what we've done is the alternates have swapped back and forth on votes. And so then sometimes different people are voting on the same thing. So up to the chair to designate an alternate who will be voting at
That's
that
right.
meeting for that
That's
point in
right.
time to have it consistent.
So could I suggest that we do take a homework assignment?
Yeah.
That you ask us to go look at the proposed changes to 405, tell us where they are, and come back next week and either approve them or not,
They
or
are
2
here,
weeks.
they are redlined, there are comments and
I
there are
haven't seen
changes.
this, that's all I'm telling you.
It's on SharePoint,
Okay,
all right? So you can download it
Yep.
and look at it and
do
see
you
what you
want
think.
comments back from us, or do you want to hold those until we come back on the 7th?
I think if you want to.
Yeah, if you
can
wanna
make
write comments, have at
Write
it.
comments.
These
Okay.
Do we have to comment individually, or can we all comment on the same document?
You can, I think you all have access, correct me if I'm wrong, but they should have access to.
My point is, if all 5 of us comment on the same document, does it constitute a meeting?
No, you're just preparing, no, I
Okay.
wouldn't.
No,
All right, thank you.
You're not taking action, you're not discussing it in detail, you're just offering the comments ahead of time. That way you're all on the same page.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we will comment online in the SharePoint drive.
and there are
Before
comments
the next
already
meeting.
there.
Are we actually authorized to change the document on the SharePoint?
You just
We can modify it?
No,
Wow.
you can
Use-
add
use the
comments.
comments.
Okay.
You
And-
can, it's under.
Nadia, could you demonstrate what
control.
comments look like?
You can't go deleting everybody else's.
Well, I'm
comments.
just wondering, you know, just watch out. Yeah.
Nefarious.
But they can track you if you do it.
Yeah.
Nadia's gonna
Oh,
show,
okay.
Nadia will
Come
demonstrate.
and get you.
Okay, all right.
So if-
You add a comment out the side, you can't actually change the text, you add a comment. Okay.
Correct. And if you have any troubles with navigating the SharePoint, please come into the office or send us an email. Be happy to walk you
I
through.
think with the board, what we're hearing is we got some folks that are willing to help us with the administrative issues, but it's up to the board to make this document what we want it to be.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
These
right?
are our bylaws.
And
These are
right
what
now, there's been some suggested changes by people that aren't on the board, but
Alright.
they look like they're good changes. We should go at least read them
yeah.
Look at it.
and
Alright,
accept
yeah,
them
okay.
at the next meeting.
Study 405, got it.
It's not very long.
I know,
Yeah,
Or very
You
interesting.
can use the review.
okay,
we'll see.
it's true, very true.
Okay, all right. And the other one you should look at is the flow chart
Yeah,
for site plan approval
yeah.
and see what you think of that.
And what's our output on that?
I think just come in with comments, because this is, Galen's suggesting this is the way we do it. And, you know, things like sending earlier to Acorn for review before we get to a meeting
Yep.
and so forth, so that we have the comments earlier and applications can move faster,
All right,
Okay.
things like that.
That's the major change really in your rules, is just to grant staff the authority that we can send this to Acorn. Because there's a 30-day window where we receive the application and then before you see your initial review. And during that 30-day period, you're all reviewing it, but I don't have the authority to send it to Acorn until you all say I can send it. So changing the rules to at least give the town staff the flexibility necessary, especially when I think it's in the benefit of the board to receive the peer review from the engineer, to give us that discretion. That way we're not waiting 30 days and delaying the developer and applicant thoughtful comments and feedback so that they can provide the additional supplemental information for your initial review. So hopefully at that initial review, you find the application complete and move forward with the public hearing process.
I liked the idea of giving the planning office the discretion to ask for an engineering peer review. I would like to not codify that it be Acorn in our documents. I think
Yeah,
that.
it doesn't say that.
Oh.
Yeah. Good point, though.
It does
Okay,
say
it already
send to
says-
Acorn for
That's just
review.
your flow chart.
That's just the flow
That's just,
chart.
that's not an actual official document, it's just an illustration to help
Okay.
the board understand the process. The language that I have in the rules section says town staff assisting the planning board may use discretion to forward applications before the board to expert consultants for the purpose of offering peer reviews to aid in the initial application reviews.
For example, traffic or something like that.
Yep, anything like that, yep.
Can I make a comment on that? Am I allowed to?
I'd like to hear it.
As a resident?
Yeah,
What I get nervous about, take every application I've ever come in here and talked about, and completely set it aside. And honestly,
This is Jeff Boley. for
sorry,
the
Jeff
record.
Bally, Town of Kennebunkport resident. On this application, previously Acorn or a third-party engineer made comments and reviews relative to technical information, stormwater analysis, that type of thing. The very thorough Acorn engineer, specialist, whatever, she used to work for the DEP at one point, that's who, was it Deborah, or, she essentially reviewed the application, the whole thing, based on your entire subdivision and land use ordinance for you. And I guess my comment to that is, from the board's perspective, and the town's perspective, I think, a little dangerous. Because you're gonna weigh up, essentially it's taking, you're subcontracting out your review of whether it's a site plan review or a subdivision review, or it's major or minor, right? I think that's, I'm not saying you can't do it. I mean, do whatever, you just read the section of the ordinance, Galen, but I think it is potentially if they make a mistake and they read into something, I mean, obviously you might pick it up, but at the same time, you may not. And you may look at it and it may give it weight that by rights, they shouldn't be reviewing whether or not, I don't know. Trying to think of an explanation.
It needs to be a focused review, not everything you would like to view on this. So when we request a review, is it of the stormwater plan, or is it?
Yes.
What,
Traffic
very,
analysis,
very
like you said.
specific, what are we asking them to
Right.
review? and not leaving them with an open book. Because, like you said, I guess that's kind of our job and the town's job to do, and we shouldn't be paying somebody to go do our job.
I couldn't agree more. I was taken aback by the scope of
Right.
Acorn's initial review. It was more expansive than any that I've seen in the past, and it
Right.
certainly was more than I thought I was asking for.
Right, yeah.
So I think you're right, and I think we need to find a way to control that. Now, maybe by giving that and some direction to the code enforcement office, we can direct it better. But I think we need to be careful.
Well, I think the planning department can effectively look at what they think should be reviewed by sending out to experts and just basically describe what they want reviewed.
But we set the stage there for a planning office, some future planning office, obviously, not working well with the planning board and deciding that they have the discretion to go outsource the entire review process. And that's not what we're looking for.
No.
We had a
it is-
checklist of what are the possible things that might be reviewed. Storm.
Yeah.
Traffic analysis. But then we examine it based on that checklist of however many items there are.
As opposed to how complete the
Right.
application page is.
And if we find that there's
Exactly.
something not clear or in contention, or someone has voiced an opinion about the traffic analysis, and we feel that there's been an inadequacy or an omission or something that we have a question about, then you get the outside engineer.
Yeah.
I think that goes back to the time issue, right? Because if the Acorn is being asked to look at it in its totality relative to the.
Takes a long time.
Yeah, sure, of course it
Yeah.
does.
I was surprised by this one from
Yeah.
Acorn because we don't usually get a review
No,
like
and
that.
I think she reviewed it not unlike she dug into previous DEP full reviews in the past, right? And I think that's part of what it is. And whatever is fine. I mean, you're gonna pick up on things that you may not have, but I think, again, looking at Acorn's work in the past with other engineers, they always looked at stormwater or other technical matters. That was it. So,
Yeah. That's,
my
that-
two
Okay.
cents.
Thank you.
yeah.
No, I think if you send it out, you just have to clarify what it is you want reviewed and make sure they understand that. But it has been that way in the past, and this one was amazing.
Expansive.
And we don't usually go back and forth 3 times with Acorn. So that's-
And also create those guidelines for what is up for review, what is up for a review from a second party, third party. What should we be looking at?
Yep.
Okay.
But I think it's a good idea to get the reviews early.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that applies to the town attorney as well, the town solicitor, so that we know this is when it's reasonable to call somebody in and when it isn't.
Those questions, though, those legal questions, don't usually come up until we're discussing with the applicant or questions arise from
But they need to
abutters.
be, but
Okay.
they need to be focused, I think is what he's saying. So anytime you ask an outside expert, be it a technical expert or a legal expert, you want a focused question.
Well, we do for an attorney, because attorney time is very
That's all I
expensive.
think you were saying,
Yeah.
right?
Well, how much is an outside engineering firm's time as well? They're expensive, I assume.
Well, again, all the more reason to bound the,
Yes.
It's very expensive,
yes,
Yes, you would know.
because I've paid for it.
yeah.
Yeah, but in any
it needs to be
external
bounded.
review, put boundaries. That's-
Yeah.
Are there other areas where someone else is coming from the outside other than an engineering or solicitor?
Internal town departments, fire, police,
Yeah.
et cetera,
Yeah, we don't-
public works.
And the usual stuff on the state or Army Corps?
that's
Yeah,
usually
So those
what
are
it's
paid
not
for,
up.
those are
We don't
separately, and
usually- It would be very unusual to
Yeah.
go anywhere else.
I just wondered if there was anything else that would go on that list.
I
We got
don't
traffic
remember.
engineer sometimes, depends on the application.
Yeah,
So a different kind of engineer.
Yeah,
yeah.
there are specialties.
Oh, really?
Can I raise a related issue since we're talking about, updating our ordinances or reviewing our ordinances and reconciling them? Can we talk for just a second about how we could have done a better job catching the pond setback of 250 foot? Why do you think we missed that?
Because probably most of us, including me, who is the case manager, and mea culpa here,
No, no,
haven't read through completely the subdivision regs for a long time.
they're hard.
And I went back to review them because of questions that were raised and decided to review the whole thing as, as thoroughly as possible. And that's when that came up.
And the same with me with the net residential area, until
And this didn't come up with staff review either,
oh, for a fact.
yeah. But I'll remember it now.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's
Is
great.
there any merit in us doing a self-education here, that, we each take a section and
No.
take, you don't want to do that?
I'm not going through something like that.
all right.
I think each of us is responsible
For the whole document?
for the whole document. And every year or so, we need to sit down and just read through it.
If we
and
need to
make sure we keep,
do a certification?
Well, and again, I think it has, how often has a pond been an issue?
it hasn't.
It was just an example.
And that,
Mike.
but I mean, versus ones that we have dealt with time and time again on Kings Highway. Because
Absolutely.
We've seen those so many times.
Or
and maybe
peers, or-
Maybe it's
yeah.
a general thing. When something is different or new is introduced, we take the pause and say, is there something in the regulations with this? So if it's the pond this time, God knows what it's next time, but something out of our kind of standard kit that we seem to be addressing quite frequently, if kind of tag that and then recognize it as something different, something new, is there something that may be applicable to this that we haven't been normally dealing with and would catch us?
Well, this is one of the things that happens when you have a board where there's turnover every so many years. And it takes a while. There's a learning curve for somebody to come up to speed and understand, and say, oh, pond, okay, I need to go to certain parts of the regulations. Or I better do a search on ponds because we haven't done this before. Someone who's been on the board for like 10 years or so would probably have dealt with it and would remember. But, we serve, 6 years max, and then there's turnover.
9
And you
years.
don't get to see everything.
No.
You don't.
Nine-
Applications come in that are
9 years.
different, and it's just a human thing, I think.
And we haven't had as many exceptional properties, but we're getting more and more.
Oh, we're gonna get more and
Exceptional
more.
marginal
Yes,
properties
I'm
where
sure Jeff
people are
has
having
some
to do
more down,
creative
up
things.
in his sleeve there. He'll be back, and other people will too. Yes, as we go into more and more marginal areas, we have to be more careful.
It's gonna be all that it is, because
It's all that's left to build on.
so it's all gonna be stuff that is,
Yeah.
in the.
And that's one of the reasons we have to reconcile the LUO with the subdivision regs.
When do we
And-
start looking at the affordable changes that have come in? It's,
Yeah.
again,
And climate change, water level change, flood maps.
Storm, trees.
we're fine on that. Larry's got that covered.
And any number of properties where people are, putting in riprap because or raising the wall and then raising the wall again and then on a
Which
piece of
isn't
land
gonna
that,
do them
it's just not
much
gonna do
good in the
much. The
long
holding
run.
action.
That's right.
Yeah.
but it's their property.
I guess I
Well-
have a question on SharePoint, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Is there a way, like, there was a notification that came out that there was new things added? And is there a way to direct us to where those are? Because I happened to stumble across where the videos were. I kept clicking because it says the folder was done on July 1st or July 3rd. But there was new stuff buried in there. And, I hunted around between the meetings and I think I found everything. And I just don't know, is there a way to help us
This
have
is,
a list or something that this is new, I gotta go to it instead of, I'm gonna find it in a folder somewhere if I'm lucky type thing.
Maybe a
Well-
chronologic table of contents.
well,
I don't
this is something that I think relates to what I raised with you on the phone, in that, can we have the date of submission of a document on the title somewhere,
Yeah,
you know?
that helps.
Or something like that. And I've often seen in folders, when I've been working with companies, something gets starred if there's something new and you haven't clicked on it.
Yeah, and that's just something to help me get to there. It's fantastic having a place. Getting the notification was great. It was just after that, I was kind of like, have I got everything that's new or not? And I don't know if there's a mechanism or a way to flag those or direct us to those or something. I'm sure this is not unique to us in the world of SharePoint. So I know somebody sorted this issue before, I just don't know how they've done it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like this is mostly a tool for the board to make your lives
Yeah.
easier. So ours as well, but generally for you. So obviously our office is happy to take recommendations and work with you where we can. We've tried to organize everything in a way that kind of generally makes sense. And so if you go into like a specific application, you'll see a folder labeled abutters
Yeah.
in the application. So, but yeah, if I know we heard from Nina earlier that having dates in the name of the document would be helpful.
And
So
a standard sort of naming convention, date's part of it, but so we know what it is, what that file is, you know, so dates and some standardized naming conventions.
You mean like a butter and?
Or whatever,
review or
whatever it
something
is,
like
just
that?
something standard, it makes it a little bit easier to find. But a way of somehow highlighting that this is new, you ought to go look at this type thing, instead of having to flip through all the folders and subfolders and try to find to make sure you've got everything new.
Well, if you have the dates when they were submitted on the title, and when you get a notification, it says new abutter letter or something
then I
like
know where
that,
to go.
then you know where to go.
Yeah, yeah, just something to help us get there and make sure that I got everything, because I think I got everything. I looked at all the videos, I was good there, but like I said, I think last time, I think I looked at all the abutter letters, because they were the best I could get, but I didn't feel comfortable that I had found everyone
Everything, yeah.
out there. But it's a new process, I think it's an improvement, it's just ways that we can fine tune it to make it even a better thing.
And part of it's just diligence on our part. We have to go in there, we have to go look at this stuff. And with many of the applications, it's fairly straightforward. But especially as we're doing subdivision stuff, they're just large projects. Having been an alternate, as you know, for the past 42 years, that I've never had to take on quite that much.
Right.
And now I do, and there's a lot of material, and I went through the SharePoint, and I made it a date where I'm gonna just go through it weekly instead of on time, and that way I know that I can do it. That's the way I work.
You'll find with subdivisions, there'll be a lot of abutter letters
Oh, yeah.
and notices.
Well, I've seen them before, but I
Yeah.
didn't know always have to go.
Do you think that the attorney opinions that we just talked about tonight should and will be in the SharePoint?
Oh, should be.
Oh, yeah.
Should be in their own.
I hope so.
I mean, it would be nice if we had maybe
They are.
one of the folders is
Yeah.
town documentation, like letter from the fire chief, letter from the town
Oh, yeah.
attorney, a letter from that sort
That
of
should all
stuff.
be in there.
I think they are pretty well organized.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So should we leave this for review at home and then
Yeah.
come back to this?
Yes,
That's
We
a
can
good
make it a
idea.
book club.
yes,
Okay.
it's our assignment.
In that case, there's one other item on here, and that's discussion regarding minutes. I think, Larry, was it you that brought it up, or George, that,
Not me.
What's the issue?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
I think the minutes was there a way that we could have the things that we needed for the FOF
findings of
highlighted
fact?
or something, so if in the minutes, you know,
Well,
are there things that it's approved, is it, you know, are
Conditions.
the certain things that we're gonna use to write the finding of facts
No.
is
Well,
is,
no,
tied into the minutes?
I think the issue was whether to simplify or have an abbreviated minutes. And my position is I like the minutes, the way Patricia's doing them, because they're very detailed. And
Yes.
whenever I'm writing a finding of facts, I go back and read the minutes sometime to make sure I got it right, see? To make sure the findings are consistent with what the meeting, the record of the meeting says. So I like the current way the minutes are being prepared.
I
think they're very
I
useful.
agree. I think Tricia does a super job, and,
Yeah.
and I think all of us really appreciate that. I think what happened is that I couldn't remember the last time I asked for a change in the minutes, but a month or so ago, I asked for a change. I asked for 2 things to be added to the minutes, and I maybe wasn't as clear as I could be about what I wanted, and it went around twice, and it was last minute, and it came back as, hey, guys, we can't have every little nit in there. And I agree with that. We don't need every little nit in there, but in this particular case, there were a couple of things I wanted on the record and that would be good reminders when we got to the findings of fact.
I think this started with a note
And that got fixed.
from Galen that basically said that the minutes are not very useful for things like when you go back to court cases and findings that a court would make.
Yeah.
And the court will not necessarily look at that.
Yeah, they would rather see it in your actual discussion part of your
Findings of fact.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And so there was a recommendation to keep the minutes a little shorter. But I think Larry came forward and said that, it's very helpful to have more detailed minutes. And I agree with that. Sometimes I go back to the minutes and say, what part of that video did I want to look at again before I write my findings of fact?
Yeah,
So what you're doing is perfect.
yeah,
Okay?
don't change, yeah.
Yeah.
This is no good deed goes unpunished.
That's right.
Yeah, this is perfect example.
Put that
If
in
we're
the
going to
minutes.
get analyzed, you're going to get analyzed.
That's right.
Okay, so that being said, then we've had the discussion on the minutes, and there's a reason for having them a little more detailed.
Yeah. it's useful.
As detailed as they are, I don't think they need
Yeah.
to be more detailed.
No, it's perfect, yeah.
No, I said a little more detailed.
Right,
from what-
and if in the
from what
future,
Galen was
I
suggesting.
feel like something has gotten missed, I'm gonna try to be as clear as I can possibly be about what it is I was looking for.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Apologies there.
But you can't add anything to the minutes that wasn't
Oh, you can make stuff up,
in
right?
the meetings, okay?
Good luck with that, right?
Patricia will reject it immediately.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay,
I wish I had said.
yeah, in parentheses.
yes,
Yeah.
when you're thinking at night, I should have said, that does not go into the minutes.
Okay,
Okay.
Understood.
All right, I'll take one more motion here.
move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you. Great.